Welcome back to JaredBodine.com, the tech you need to know. Lately I've been working on a project for a client of mine who wants to get an Insteon smart home system. It's been a pretty fun install for me, but it's definitely had a lot more trials than you would hope from a complete system that is no new player to the game. The issue I had that was most aggravating for me was the issue of the ceiling fan control. Insteon has a module they call Fanlinc. It's a device that sits up on the top above the canopy of your ceiling fan. You have to bypass the regular switch. Otherwise, every time you turn the switch off, you'll actually turn off the smart control and it's useless. So what I've done is I've paired the Fanlinc with their 6-button control device. It's all great when it's set up, but getting set up was quite difficult. I found documentation severely lacking on Insteon's website as well as their retail face, smarthome.com. Even calling into the support was of some help, but didn't quite really give me the help I needed. So I'm going to save you the frustration, and I'm going to show you how you really want to set up your Insteon Fanlinc with your Insteon 6-button dimmer remote wired into the wall. And yes, smarthome.com, I will take a paycheck for this. Thank you. So what I had before was a pretty old school dimmer switch for the light and the switch here on off for the fan. By removing 2 switches and using this one, you're going to have some extra space. So you'll want to get a faceplate that can cover that for you. Be careful when you're digging around in here. Make sure you do always switch off the circuit breaker first before you dig in there, because you can electrocute yourself. Power is going to be going through this switch anytime there's power on, because the power needs to go and connect to the Fanlinc, because the Fanlinc needs to always stay on, and then it will turn on and off your lights and fans. What makes this really tricky and confusing for a lot of people is your tendency to think you're going to want to connect matching wires. This red one is the load coming out of the switch, and this red one is the load leading to the top canopy of the fan. Don't be deceived. If you have a connection like this, if you want to set it up like this, you do not connect those 2 wires. You do, however, need to connect your neutral line and your line. I know that sounds a little redundant, but your line and your neutral need to be connected. You also should connect your ground wire if you have ground available. It'll work without it, but it's always good practice to do that. So up here on the canopy, I know it looks like a mess, but let me step you through it. This is the load line that was disconnected down on the box that you saw earlier. So rather than pull it out, if you ever need to use it again in the future, you can. This is now basically an unused wire on both ends. You should still cap it off on both ends just for good practice. This is the neutral line. It goes into the obviously neutral line here. This red line is what you would think would connect here because of load, but it's not. This red line is what sends power to your motor fan. So when you find the wire that says motor, that goes there. The blue one is what controls your lights. So if you're using Fanlinc to control your lights as well, which you should, I think it would make sense, and I am in this situation, then you want to connect whatever wire controls or powers your lights from your fan module to the blue. And then the black wire goes into that same line that we were using earlier. And then green here, this is just your ground wire. If it's already connected, leave it connected, that's good. Okay, the pairing, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on pairing because pairing is basically the same as it was with the device. You press and hold down the button until it beeps. And then with the app, I use the app, you go to add a new device and they'll find each other and do a series of tests and you're set. There is a separate control for light and fan, even though it's one device and one module. So make sure you pair both of them one at a time. And this device does also need to be paired just like any other Insteon device. Just because it's hardwired doesn't mean it's going to automatically be recognized by your hub. You must pair it. Pairing is very easy. there's a button right here below the off button. It's hard to see and it's clear, but it does kind of glow green once in a while when there's traffic. Push that button, hold it down until it beeps, and then do it the same way you'd pair anything else. I again recommend using the app. In this example, I'm going to do it on an iPhone because that's probably one of the more popular devices out there. But the steps are basically going to be the same for any device you're using to connect everything. First thing you need to do is you need to create scenes. Scenes are basically presets that control one or more functions. You're going to need 4 functions or 4 scenes for the Fanlinc, for the fan part of it, and 1 to control the light. So you're going to have a total of 5 scenes that you need to create just for this one switch. It's a little crazy, but that's how the system is. First one I'm going to create is ceiling fan high. So to create a new one, you're going to hit the menu key on the side and go to create a scene. Now I've already created one, so instead of actually creating the scene, I'm going to go to edit scenes, and I'm just going to show you how I created the scene. So first thing you do is you give it a name. I just called it Den Fan High. You're going to want to give it a unique name based on the room, otherwise you'll get confused as to which fan is connected to which scene. It could get messy. You can change the icon. I'm just using a ceiling fan icon. Room memberships, that's what room it's in. I recommend doing that, but it will work without connecting it to a room. You can set it on a schedule, but I don't want to do that in this case. And then you select which devices are going to be involved. You need to definitely connect your Fanlinc. Make sure it's the right Fanlinc if you have more than one room with a fan. And you're going to want to set the Fanlinc responder to high. Well, let me go here to add a member so you can see how you change your settings. So here you add which devices can be a part of it. Leave the main alone. You don't want that to do the fan, you want that to do the lights. You're going to have all 4 of the buttons involved. It might say scene A, scene B, scene C, scene D, because the names come as you create these scenes. So look at the picture for which square it's referring to, because the names will change a little bit. And then here you can have it control the fan and the light. In this case, we don't want to control the light, just the fan. There's other things like the garage sensors and other things that can get into play, but you don't want to do that for this. Okay, and then when you go to next, you're going to choose how fast do you want the fan to spin. Loft, low, medium. In this case, we're going to call this Den Fan High. So we want to put it on high. Now this is the part that makes it really, really tricky and really, really important. So pay extra attention to this specific part. The button that you want to be the controller, like if I want button A to be fan high, you set that one to controller, and you just do that by tapping. It can be responder on, off. It can be both on, off, or it can be set to controller. If I'm programming for Den Fan High, and I want button A to be the one to turn it on, it needs to be set to controller. The other 3 buttons, the ones that you will want to turn off when this is activated, so button B, C, and D, they need to be set to responder and off. I saw someone else say they set it to on and then had the ramp rate at 0. Don't do that. That's old school. You want responder on, you want it to responder mode and off. That's it. And that's the changes. Then it goes through this series of things. Now I actually just changed everything to nothing, so it didn't really take very long. But you hear a lot of beeping going on as you do that. Now that's just one scene. Then we have to go to the next one, medium, low, and I'm just going to skip ahead to off so you can see how off is. So again, I'm going to call it off. I'm going to give it an icon. I'm going to tell it it's part of the den. I'm not going to put it in the schedule unless you want it to automatically turn off every night at a certain time. That's kind of a handy thing. You're going to add members. Again, leave the main button out of it. All 4 buttons are going to be a player because you want one of the functions to disable the other 3, right? To turn off the other 3 if one of the other ones is involved. And then again, you want your Fanlinc fan to be involved, and that's it. You click next. Again, this time you choose what speed you want. In this case, we're programming it for the off button. I want off to be button D, so it's controller. And the other three, high, medium, and low, or button A, B, and C in this case, I need those to be set to responder and off. So what that means is this button controls the scene, these three respond to the scene, and they turn off when there's something going on with the controller. I wish I could have found the documentation somewhere, or a video somewhere that explained this to me, but I didn't. I had to do this for you. Lastly, we want to control the lights. Okay, let's turn that. So the last thing we want to do is control the lights. I just used the room icon. It's a den. I have it in kind of like a workshop, so I used the logo of the, the hammer and the saw. Give it a name, use your logo. What room does it belong to? Again, you can schedule lights on and off. I'm not doing that in this case. Group number is automatically assigned. Don't worry about that. Okay, now this one we're not involving the fan, but the fan link is controlling the lights. So in this case, there is the fan link is involved, but only for the light, not for the fan. You just, tap it on and off to remove and add on the check marks. So I'm not including any of the buttons. Main button. The on-off buttons are linked. You cannot involve the on button without involving the off button. They are inseparably connected. So it might feel weird when you're trying to set things up in the next phase, but it'll make sense in a second here. All right, so we'll go to next. This is where you can choose your ramp rate. So in this case, light set to responder. You don't have a choice there. And I liked, obviously you want to have it turning on here. And then for ramp rate, you can choose instant, fast, medium, or slow. Slow is a little slow. Fast is pretty good, but I kind of feel like it gives me more of a high-end touch or a high-end feel to get a nice medium speed, which is 2 seconds. You can go all the way up to 8 minutes if you really want to, which I don't know why you'd want to, but it's an option. So we'll go with 2 seconds. And then here, main button, you want it to be not responder, not both, but controller. That's the setting you want. Okay, I'm not going to save it because it'll just go through the process, but that's how it looks. So now we've created our scenes, and we don't need to create any more for this switch, so I'm going to hit done. Now we have to go to the device and make sure that each scene is paired to that device. And you don't really have to do this. This is just for good measure. So you go to devices, then you go to the menu, and then you go to edit devices. All your devices are here. And then you'll see the button now corresponds to the name you gave when you created the scene, as well as on off. Now if you tap on, you can see what it's programmed for. Scene membership 1. What scene is it? Okay, it's the one I called Den Light as a controller. So that's the way I wanted it. Happy times. If we go to off, it looks the same, even though it says off there, and it is basically the same thing. Like I said, it's a little redundant. You don't need to go to both. For Fanlinc High, now it's a member of 4 scenes. Why is it 4 scenes? Because in each one of the other scenes, they send a command to turn this one off. So if I push the Den Fan low, for example, it needs to turn off the Den Fan high setting. So you can see here, and this is kind of, hopefully, should just repeat what you've already set up. So the button A is the controller. Now this is where it can get a little meta here. In the Den Fan low scene, this button's also in play. How? Well, it's set to a responder to turn off in that situation. Same thing here. In medium, button A is in play. And how is it in play? It's a responder to that scene, and it turns off when it senses that scene. And likewise, it's in play for this one because it's a responder for Den Fan off. It responds to that command by turning off when that happens. There are ways you can use that configuration to do some cool stuff, but I really don't recommend you play around with it that much. If you want some simplicity, this is the way to go. There'll be other details here, but that's all you really need for now. I hope this has helped. Now all complete. If I hit off, the light goes off, and on, of course, makes the light go on. The dimmer function will work. If you hold it down, then you get the dimmer, and again you hold it down again up to make it brighter again. The fan high, fan medium, fan low, fan off. And you'll notice that when one is turned on, the others turn off. That's the magic that no one helped me figure out. Also, one little note of interest. When you're using this 6-button keypad controller, it only is controlling the scenes that we've created. It does not actually control the Fanlinc directly. So what that means is if you're using the app to turn on and off the fan or control the lights, the indicator lights on the keypad do not correspond with the status of the lights. So let me give you an illustration of what I was saying. So I turn on the light with the button. The light turns on, the indicator light is set to on. Now if I go to my devices and I turn off the light from the Fanlinc device, not the scene, then sure enough, the light turns off, but the indicator light still shows on the 6-button switch. So if I push off here, it doesn't change anything, the light's still off. It doesn't break anything, it doesn't hurt anything, and you can always switch it back again. So the scenes will continue to work, and if the light's in the opposite state, it'll fix it. If it's in the same state, it just corrects the light. It's a little confusing, but that's just the way it is with the Insteon system. So you got to kind of get used to that. If you want to figure out how to dim it, that's easy enough. You go to here, you go to Edit Devices, and then select the device, and then right here you have the brightness. On is like super bright, but I recommend the lowest setting, which even then is still a bit bright, so I put it down at 1%. Or you can just do off. And now it won't throw you off, because when you go on here, the Fanlinc will respond, but there's no indicator lights here, so it can't confuse anybody. This has been JaredBodine.com, the tech you need to know. You can check out my website, JaredBodine.com, for more tips, tricks, and just overall technology that you need to know.